Welcome to Real Herbalism Radio. Today's episode is a re-airing of a classic show, and until today it was available only to the Herbal Nerd Society. So myself, Sue, and Candace use this time to harvest herbs and the fruits of summer. Just kick back and relax and enjoy this classic. How to treat anxiety with herbs and essential oils. Remedies for the holiday stress and anxiety Candace is already using. During the break, we'll have a special announcement about the club. So now, on with the show.
I'm Candace Hunter.
And I'm Sue Sierra Lupe. And
welcome to Real Herbalism Radio. So today we're going to be talking about anxiety. There are three different ways that I'm thinking of for approaching anxiety, and one of them is thinking about the clinical disorder anxiety, and you need to be careful about which herbals you use for those, and you want to work with your medical practitioners and all of that.
You wouldn't want a herb-drug interaction that's unpleasant.
Exactly. And then there's looking at anxiety that those of us who don't have anxiety disorders often run into, which is, I've got to give a speech tomorrow and I'm worried about it. I've got stage fright, daily, or I'm worried about paying the bills, or that kind of daily anxiety.
Right.
And then there's the third thing is the herbs and other things that you can do to help support yourself to help alleviate opportunities for anxiety to show up.
Yeah,
like
situational.
Good health. Yeah, and good health and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So let's start talking first about the herbals for daily anxiety.
Okay. All right. I know that there are some times in our life when we're a little more anxious than others, perhaps starting new jobs, or when we just feel like we're at that time of our life where there's a lot of people expecting things of us that we don't feel comfortable providing, and yet that's the way it is. And so for those kind of things, you can set yourself up where you're having some nerve calming herbs like oats. Oats are wonderful. You can either take those in a tincture form or just have a good solid breakfast of oatmeal in the morning. It really does help rebuild the nervous system. And I know that people that breed herding animals, particularly up in the British Isles, will feed their animals oats to help calm those nerves that some of the herding animals, they can get kind of stressed out.
Right, like the herding dogs too.
Yes, yes, exactly. So those are things that are really important for us. And if you start your day with a good protein-based breakfast, that helps with the nervous tension and anxiety that people experience. It's just a good, solid way to start your day so you can handle whatever things get thrown at you.
That sounds good. There's also one of the ones that I've liked, especially for the evening when I'm trying to relax after a stressful day, is skullcap, because it helps my mind relax so my thoughts aren't racing like they had been.
Yeah, skullcap is so wonderful because it combines well with a lot of other herbs. And we like to use skullcap in the clinic for people that come in with some general anxiety caused by stressful conditions that they feel they have absolutely no control over. And particularly since we deal with a lot of the unhoused or the people that are economically distressed, skullcap is one of our go-to. And you see oftentimes a valerian combined with skullcap. That's a good combination for people that have sleep disorders. They with valerian, it does better if you take a dose in the afternoon and then you take another dose just before bed. But for some people, they're just anxious all day, and they don't want to be droopy during the day, so taking valerian skullcap throughout the day is not the choice for them. But a good skullcap light dosage, for example, either half a dropper full or a full dropper full followed by food, would be a good thing to have throughout the day. And you can combine the skullcap with other things like lemon balm. It's a wonderful combination. And lemon balm is also really soothing for the digestive system as well as helping calm the nerves. We have seen people in the clinic that have come in and they're very anxious and antsy, and we'll just give them a little bit of lemon balm that it has either a glycerite or a honey base, and you just see a smile come onto their lips just as they're trying it, because it's got that sunny lemon taste to it.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to smile when you have that in your mouth tickling your taste buds.
Oh yeah, there's a reason why they called it the herb of good cheer back in the Middle Ages. It
Very
really
true.
does bring your spirits back up.
Very true. Yes, and I mean, lemon balm has lots of other properties to it. People that have tension and also have herpes, either genital herpes or oral herpes, or if they have shingles or mono, those are all in the same family, and lemon balm is really good for treating that virus. So they've already started getting tense, and so now their body's susceptible to an outbreak. There you go. I mean, it
Right.
makes lemon balm a real natural addition to someone with anxiety to their diet.
Yeah, another good one would be catnip, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Catnip is so good for the digestive system. We always think of it as just something to give your cats, which it certainly is. They respond very well. Most cats respond very well, but for us, it's a nice digestive minty taste, and it's easy to give to kids, and it's got a calming effect. But I think that's an easy thing because it's in the mint family. A lot of things that are good for anxiety are in the mint family.
That's true.
I know that's one of your favorite families.
Yeah,
as well.
it is actually one of my favorite families. It works so well for me.
Yeah. You use peppermint too, don't you, for soothing anxiety?
We do use peppermint or spearmint depending on the time of year. In the winter, I'm more likely to choose peppermint because it's a little bit warming, whereas spearmint's a little bit cooling, so I'll go for that in the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mint family, it also makes pretty much everything. They both make everything taste good,
Yes, that's
which,
true.
some of the herbs that are good for anxiety, a lot of people don't like. Like motherwort, for instance, another member of the mint family, and excellent for anxiety, especially when it's accompanied with like heart palpitations and
Yeah.
anxiety because of hormonal imbalances like adolescent anxiety or menopausal anxiety. Motherwort's great for that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily taste terrific.
No, it's got a fairly bitter taste to it.
Exactly.
But it does work very quickly on heart palpitations, and it's another one of the things, along with hawthorn and skullcap, that it's a good combination for people. It's good to make sure that magnesium. We see a lot of magnesium deficiencies in our clinic, and so adding a good complex carbohydrate diet, if they can, sending people out the door with magnesium supplements along with the D3, that seems to really help people kind of get a little more control of how their thinking patterns are going, the racing thoughts, and if you're racing in your mentality, it's hard to make really good choices. And yet a lot of people that are in those chronic conditions, they need to be on top of their game all the time to help themselves pull themselves out of that hole that they've dug themselves into.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to break that cycle.
Yeah, one of the ones that I've liked to pair with motherwort and skullcap, and often I'll add oat straw in there too, just because our oat tops, which I like better, the oat tops, is borage. That's another one that I've found has really been good at helping rebuild the system. So the skullcap helps my mind relax, and the oats give me a little more strength, and the motherwort calms the general anxiety and my heart center down, and the borage makes me feel like, okay, I think I've got enough strength to get through the next day or hour or whatever.
Yeah, borage for courage.
Yes.
It's the little quote, and that does help people that they know what they need to do, but it's hard for them to get up the gumption to do so.
Right.
And I'm not sure what it is about it, but I know that also growing borage is a good helper in the garden to remind yourself to kind of stay on task. It's constantly populated by bees.
Yes.
And bees are really just the sound of them, but that's very restful to hear them and to see them so concentrated on their. The borage replenishes its nectar every 7 minutes,
Right.
which is why the bees
bees
just
are constantly
yeah,
there.
they are constantly there.
And the hummingbirds too. Hummingbirds are symbolically, they remind us to keep our energies balanced and think carefully about where we're applying our energies. To work efficiently and work well with the energy we've got. And they love borage.
They do, yeah. It's a beautiful plant. And it's such a weedy little plant, too. It can grow in many different places, and that's one of the great things about that. Of course, dandelions all over the place, but people that live in places where they can't really have a proper garden sometimes will look around and they'll see, well, this borage could grow here. If nothing else, borage can grow here, even if I forget to water it. And they're right.
Yeah, it does wonderfully. Even in my, areas of my garden that I never think to water. And they still manage it. It survives through the whole drought season.
Yep.
Pops back up the next spring, surprisingly.
Seeds dramatically as the seeds go all over the place.
Other things I wanted to get to for talking about general anxiety, but that can also be helpful for if you've got one of the clinical anxiety disorders, particularly if you're on medications, would be some of the homeopathics and the flower essences and even essential oils can be really helpful.
Yes.
For everyone. And most of these are relatively safe. The flower essences and homeopathics are completely safe, regardless of whether you're taking medications or working with a therapist or not.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite flower essences for anxiety?
I like the yarrow, both the pink and the golden yarrow to begin with. Those ones are really good for helping to just give you your boundaries back, weed out or bleed out whatever it is that might be overwhelming you, so that all you have to deal with is your own emotions, nobody else's. That's particularly helpful for people that do caregiving, teaching, teachers, caregivers, people who in the medical field, like nurses, all of them can really benefit from some yarrow flower essence.
Is pink a little bit different than yellow in the way that or white yarrow in the way that it manifests?
Yeah, the white yarrow is fairly general. Golden yarrow is especially well when you tend to feel your anxiety right in the center of your stomach. So my family, we call it anxiety stomach. Often if you're getting ready for going on stage to give a presentation, for instance, and you've got anxiety, performance anxiety, golden yarrow is excellent for helping to calm that area. Pink yarrow is particularly good for those who are in professions or in situations where they are doing a lot of caregiving and they're really focusing or need to be focused on how other people are feeling, because those feelings can get to the point where they're overwhelming to the individual, and the pink yarrow helps better than the others. But I'd go for any yarrow flower essence if I'm in that state. I'd go for whatever I can get my hands on.
So the pink yarrow is particularly good for people that they make their business by looking for clues from human behavior, but those clues need to have boundaries so that they don't penetrate.
Exactly.
Okay.
In fact, all of you that work at Occupy Medical would probably benefit quite a bit from the pink yarrow.
Yeah, that's very true.
So some of the other flower essences that we've used are like aspen. That's one that's been a favorite in my family because it's for anxiety where you don't really know why. You're just anxious and you can't pin it to anything real. Aspen helps to alleviate that vague anxiety.
Tree medicine is one of those things that I feel like I'm just opening myself up to. Classic herbalists kind of ignore the trees. They tend to go for the herbaceous perennials or different things like that. But the reappearance of birch, for instance, in my life, using it in the foot clinic because it's such a strong antiseptic, and some of those other trees, of course, hawthorn I've loved for years, but the actual bark of a tree and aspen, as you said, it's really a neglected resource in the herb field. It is,
and it's amazing because trees have so much to give, and they've been here so long. They're so grounding and stable, and most of the time that's exactly what we need as herbalists, is something to help the person become grounded and stable in a better place.
Steadfast.
Yeah. Another one that we've used in our family would be the mustard flower essence. That's good for when you've got anxiety that's accompanied with depression. Particularly adolescence is a good time for mustard, because you get the depression and then you feel worried about things, and it may, that in accompaniment with aspen together, those two help you get through some of those really shaky years when you're younger. So,
yeah, that's a good one to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Wasn't there some other flowers out there that you like using? I think you had mentioned a monkey flower or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
the pink monkey flower is good for when you're worried about being accepted by others. It's another one that's a good adolescent formula. And it also, strangely, as being, the age I am and in the place in life I am where I'm beginning to kind of put my toe back into the workplace a little bit more professionally because I've been raising a kid and I'm still mom and I'm still teaching and doing that, but I'm getting ready for career. Pink monkey flower is a good one to deal with those anxieties because it's worry about how people are going to perceive you. I'm in a transition and I'm, getting ready to try to be in a life. And honestly, I was a professional before my child.
Right.
So it shouldn't be that hard. And then you start to feel guilty, like, oh God, why am I thinking this? Oh my God, what if they don't like me? And so pink monkey flower helps to alleviate and get you back to a centered place. Like, no, this is okay. This is a normal, natural place to be. And of course, people will like you well enough.
Yeah, no doubt. I know there's a number of those flower essences that are also fantastic as just regular herbals.
Yeah.
And I'm not as familiar with them, but isn't there a passion flower or something like that on the list? It's hard for me to remember some of them, but
yeah, passion flower, I'm sure there is a passion. I don't remember what passion flower specifically helps for. One of the ones I think is kind of cool is Oregon grape.
Oh, as a flower essence?
Yeah, as a flower essence.
Wow.
It helps when you're expecting hostility from other people. So when you're anxious because you're expecting that people are going to be hostile towards you regularly, Oregon grape is what you go for. It's also wonderful herbal because it helps to strengthen your immune system and protect you. So if part of your anxiety is coming from illness or recent illness, Oregon grape's a good place to be taking, even just the fruit, taking the Oregon grape tincture from the fruit instead of the bark.
That's interesting because I recall very distinctly there was a meeting I was supposed to be at with two people that I had an unsteady relationship with, and I hadn't seen them for a while, and so we met at a little cafe, and on the way there, there was some Oregon grape flower blooming, and I picked it and just kind of held it with me, and as we're sitting there at the meeting, and they're trying to talk me into being involved in yet another group that I knew wouldn't be good for me because I had such a low trust level for these people. I was playing with the Oregon grape flower and twisting it around in my hand, and they said, "Oh, once an herbalist, always an herbalist," and kind of made a joke about that, and and that's great. That was their way of handling it. But I think that just having something where I'm focusing on rather than putting too much attention, being present but not putting too much attention on the people that I was anxious about. I think that really helped, and I don't know if that's another way of flower essence.
Yeah.
But I know that it really helped me relax a lot and not let my imagination get the best of me.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what Oregon grape does, is it helps you just, stay in reality and recognize and feel that, you're safe.
Yeah.
It gives you think about the leaves. They're so prickly.
Yes, they are.
They're wonderful for protection.
Yeah. And I felt very comfortable saying, well, I'm really grateful that you guys thought about me. And I'm also grateful that you guys willing to let bygones be bygones. That's important. And I'm putting my energy out there for that too. But this isn't a project that I have time for in my life. And let me know how it turns out. I am curious about it. And that was the end of it, and it felt really good. Nice. So it's
so empowering.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
It really is. It really is. I'd love to say all of my meetings have gone that way. I need to pick more Oregon grape flower. Well, what about homeopathic remedies?
There were 3 of them that you and I had talked about. I haven't used a lot of homeopathic specifically for anxiety, but I remember you said that you used a couple with your kids when they were younger.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to help with sleep. Chamomile is one of them, and you see them in a lot of calms forte combinations, but chamomile is what they usually call it, and I had it around the house, and one time my daughter, she's still a go-getter, she found the little bottle of it and she ate all of them.
Oh gosh!
Which was pesky but not dangerous.
Thankfully, it was homeopathic. So
it was homeopathic. So So it didn't even make her fall asleep, whereas the appropriate dose did help her calm down and get her to sleep. So that there is something to be said about that. And then in the clinic, the things that we've relied on has been the Kali, Kali, and I'm not familiar enough with how it's made to give any information on that. But I know that for people that have a lot of present anxiety, that seems to be the one of our go-to, and as well as the Hypericum, which is our St. John's wort, and that one seems to be best for people that have anxiety due to constantly being aware of past trauma.
Right.
So, and for St. John's wort, it really does help just in the herbal form to help people with depression, and again, depression caused by a trauma. So it helps with pain caused by trauma. I know that the oil itself is really good topically, and you've got a real winner there if you can add some lavender essential oil with the St. John's wort. So it's a preservative, but also helps calm people down. There's a lot of massage therapists rely heavily on St. John's wort oil.
Right. Yeah, and the lavender is another. That's one of those essential oils that's particularly good for calming the nerves.
Yeah, it's my absolute favorite. I know it doesn't. Not everybody likes it. It's in the mint family again, your favorite family. But some people have an unpleasant reaction to it. But for those that don't, we have seen people that have alcohol dependency, and they can only go for a certain amount of time without it becoming dangerous to them. They'll go into DT, and although this doesn't save them from going into DT, it helps them calm themselves enough so that we can treat them and then get them into a place where they can be safe.
Right.
So I've seen people where their face is all red and they're flushed and they're going to throw up and they can't stand up, and then we open up the lavender and they just relax quite a bit. So that's a blessing to have in my tool bag. But there are other essential oils, of course.
Well, two of the ones, I like to use lavender mixed with rosemary, a combination half and half of each, particularly when it's anxiety during the day, because the rosemary is stimulating enough to counterbalance any sleepiness you might get as a result of the lavender.
Right.
So the end result is that you feel very relaxed,
but alert
and clear. Rosemary helps you clear your mind.
Right.
So you're relaxed, you're alert, you're clear, and you're capable.
Nice.
And those two together, I mean, even just smelling them will pick you up real fast.
Yeah, Kathy Cavill, we went and heard her speak, and she mentioned orange, many different types of flavors of orange, and bitter orange is one that I had in my car when the kids would start kind of acting up, and it's either that or I do the old arm swiping thing. It didn't work for my parents, but it made them feel better, so I used the bitter orange. I have a little piece of kiln dried clay that my son had made into a bead, and I keep that in my car, and I'd put a drop of that bitter orange on the back of that clay, and then that just seemed to help them calm down quite a bit.
Yeah, orange, all of the oranges, narrowly was really expensive, but it's also very good. That one, just like the other ones, for reducing anxiety and shifting your mood. If you're looking specifically for help with things like public speaking, where you need to redirect your emotional energy into a specific form, like into the speech itself, narrowly is great for that. But it is really expensive.
Yeah, and just a dab will do you, fortunately.
Exactly. I personally am more likely to rely on the orange, the sweet or bitter orange myself.
Yeah, there's a couple of other ones. Hyssop, lemon balm. Lemon balm is actually quite expensive in the essential oil.
It is. It's a very expensive essential oil.
Which I guess it's just because you have to use so much in order to extract very little. Maybe it's like Absolute Rose. I'm not sure.
Right. I'm assuming it is because you use a large quantity, but I really don't know why Melissa is expensive as it is.
Yeah.
It is an effective one, though, for helping reduce anxiety and also for dealing with depression and bringing your spirits back up.
Right. I imagine that when I've made lemon balm tea, and usually, I don't drink a lot of lemon balm tea because there's so many other things that I can use to help with my digestive system. But I breathe it in.
Right.
A lot of times I can't help it. It smells so delightful.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think that throwing that into a steam with a little bit of the yarrow, perhaps the pink yarrow, like you were saying.
That would be really nice.
Some elderflower blossoms. How nice would that be? That'd be very good. And maybe
Very nice,
valerian
yeah.
blossoms, which valerian, the root, of course, smells horrible, but the flowers they smell heavenly.
They do,
It's interesting to me. Why don't more people use valerian flower? Why is it just the stinky root?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to admit, though, for myself, I find the valerian root to be absolutely heavenly. So, and I respond well to valerian. It's very relaxing for me.
I think I've had an overdose of teenage boy room.
Possibly.
That might, because that's exactly what it reminds me of.
And pretty much, I've only run into one other person thus far who actually liked the smell of valerian. Also,
Yeah.
So
To each their own.
It's not normal, I guess. I do know though that valerian is an excellent one for sleep, as is oat straw and skullcap, of course, just before bed.
Holy basil.
Holy
is
basil,
a wonderful
yes.
thing for
Hops.
treating. Yeah, hops. Oh my goodness, and that's also really good for things like IBS and the hardcore digestive issues that people deal with. Passion flower is one of my favorites as well for helping people sleep, helping children sleep. It's very child safe, and
Yes.
people that just have that railroad train of thought going through their head, and that's what's keeping them awake.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of great experiences with passion flower. It's made a lot of friends, and it's very easy to grow. I mean, down south there's passion flower galore. Of course, most of the research is on one type of passion flower, but there are over 500 different types of species of passion flower. It's the incarnata that most people have done research about. So that's the one we use. But I would not be surprised in the slightest if many of those passion flowers have just the exact same properties.
Right, or darn close.
Yeah.
I mean, you should really, honestly, if you've got passion flower growing near you, use it, because whatever it is that's growing near you is most likely going to be most beneficial to you.
Yep.
If you don't, sure, get the one that we've done the research on. But
Yeah, and it's so exotic looking.
It's beautiful.
And it's really
beautiful.
vigorous. If you shelter it from the extreme winters, then you can have it all year round.
Yeah.
But and also one thing I've discovered is if you have a brand new weed whacker, don't go over to prune near a passion flower,
keep away from the
those
passion
stalks
flower.
are much more tender than I originally had thought. That was a big surprise.
Oh, so anyway, the reason I brought up the herbs that are good for sleep is because that's one of the other good natural cures to help with anxiety is to get a good night's sleep.
Yes. Yeah.
And the more herbals that you can do to help yourself with that, the better off you are. So.
Yep. And I know that some other of the massage therapists and chiropractor friends have said if you're feeling anxious, straighten your posture, drink a glass of water. And that's not herbal, but anyone can do that.
Yes, and if you happen to have a little bit of aspen flower essence or yarrow flower essence, put a couple drops into that water and drink it, because that'll really give you that little extra boost.
Yep. Yep.
Well, Sue, I think that about covers the majority of what I wanted to go over for herbs for anxiety today. Do you have anything more you wanted to add?
We will have a list of some of the books that we mentioned and a few more on our website, and we welcome people's comments and questions. We also have a Facebook page people can check out, The Practical Herbalist, and our websites are thepracticalherbalist.com as well as realherbalismradio.com, and stay out of anxiety.
Yeah, relax.
Relax. Yep.
Now it's time for a Real Herbalism Radio sponsor break. Wait, so what?
And they just didn't quite click.
Right.
And the club is the one where you subscribe.
Yes.
Yep. And you
Get exclusive content.
Yep. All the older shows, the 50 older shows.
Yeah. Forum.
Some of which we
Forum,
listen to
possibly, yeah.
during December.
Yep.
Yep. So
And then you guys, club members, will get special notices on any specials or upcoming
Yes.
cool stuff.
and applied herbalism articles by both Candace and myself.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's in there and stuff that we're not disclosing now. It's a secret.
Now, a word from Thomas Easley about the Journal of Functional Herbalism.
The Journal of Functional Herbalism is a free online journal promoting the integration of traditional Western herbalism, clinical nutrition, and functional medicine. It's published by the Eclectic School of Herbal Medicine, and you can find the Journal of Functional Herbalism at functionalherbalism.com.
Now it's time for herbalism and homesteading news.
In a recent article published by the American Heart Association, researchers talked about potassium reducing the risk of strokes in women who are older. They boiled it down to saying that women who eat a more potassium-rich diet are less likely to have a stroke as they reach their older ages.
Yeah, they used to have a lower amount of potassium that they requested women that are in menopausal years to have, but now they've got it at the same level as women who are pregnant, which is, for the USDA, 4,700 milligrams.
Right, and the World Health Organization has a slightly lower number, but it's not that much lower.
Yes, 3,500 milligrams for the World Health Association. Yeah, so how do you get all of that into your diet? When you're pregnant, you have the impetus to put that in your diet because you're not just thinking about yourself, you're thinking about yourself and your baby.
Not to mention that you're younger, your metabolism works faster, you're moving more, and you're going to be able to burn up all those extra calories.
Right, and when you're menopausal, it's just for you. So thinking about what's best for myself and to protect myself from stroke and to protect my family members having to deal with me after a stroke, maybe that would be a good impetus. And fortunately, the things that you need to add to your diet are really quite tasty.
Right. Well, and I mean, the things that the article mentioned were banana, white and sweet potatoes, white beans. Is a small list, and they're great, but I think there's a world of better, or not necessarily better, but a world of really good potassium-laden herbs that we could talk about.
Yes, definitely. The nettle is the first thing that comes to mind for me because nettle is just so rich in every mineral, not just potassium. And normally for a menopausal woman, you need a lot of other minerals as well. A lot of people will take calcium supplements, but if you can get that in your diet, that's better than taking it in a pill naturally.
Right.
Yeah, and some women have problems with swelling of the ankles, and the diuretic action of nettle also helps with, slimming those ankles and taking off some of that water weight.
Sure, that makes sense. Dandelion would be another good one.
Dandelion is wonderful. It's very, very high in potassium, and in our herbal folio, we do talk a lot more about some of the intricate values that dandelion has to offer, potassium naturally being one of them. Parsley and cilantro are high in nettle high in potassium, and we're talking about just a teaspoon, really.
Right.
And when you're right now at this time of year, a lot of people are making salsa, and so they're putting cilantro and parsley and all kinds of those green herbs into their salsa. Well, just take a look at your salsa and think of that as medicine as well as a good food.
That sounds like a good plan. Some of the other herbs that are good, that are also often used as cooking herbs, include things like chervil and basil and dill. What else? Yeah,
turmeric and paprika, although they're not green herbs, are also pretty high in potassium. And we at the Practical Herbalist always put food and herbs together. And apple is one of the things that just even a cup of apple, a raw apple, is 134 milligrams. Avocado, it's got a huge amount, and that's 734 milligrams of potassium for a cup of avocado, and you can add that to your salsa, and you've got even more potassium.
Exactly, and as we move in toward the fall, rosemary is excellent on any of the roasts or soups and stews that you make. It's got a lot of potassium in it.
Yes, and one thing we definitely need to mention is that when you get older, you are often more susceptible to other diseases, and it's important to talk to your doctor before taking any kind of other potassium supplements. Some medications will cause your body to retain more potassium levels. It will cause your potassium levels to raise. If you have poor kidney function, for example, and you're taking some of the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, then it will cause your potassium level to raise artificially. Or ACE inhibitors is another example. Beta blockers would be one item that you would really need to talk to your doctor about. There are also some prescription meds that cause your potassium levels to lower, and those are important to talk to your healthcare professional about. One of the things, laxatives, insulin, antacids, those are some fairly common things that people take that will take out your potassium levels. When you think about it, it kind of makes a lot of sense.
Sure. So it makes a lot of sense for those folks, especially who are, middle-aged and older, to talk to or work with their healthcare providers to come up with the optimum diet and the optimum amount of potassium that they should be taking daily. It is possible to take too much.
It is, and anytime you're taking any kind of diuretic, corn silk is one of the common diuretics that people do take to help deal with the excess water weight. Nettle, again, another diuretic. But the thing about the corn silk and dandelion and nettle is, even though they're all diuretics, they replace more potassium than they're taking out. Right. So it's helping your kidney function as well as decrease your potential for stroke. So that's one of the nice things that you can say about herbs that you just don't have the same thing to say about for over-the-counter medication or prescription medication.
Herbalism 101. This is part of the show where Sue and Candace answer a listener question or teach you about an herbal definition or term covering basic to advanced herbal knowledge. If you would like the dirt on herbs, herbalism, or anything else related, you can send your question using our simple contact form at realherbalismradio.com/herbalism101. If we choose your question for the show, we will send you a free PDF ebook, Natural Nutrition by The Practical Herbalist, currently available for $4.99 at the Practical Herbalist store. Here's Candace and Sue to discuss this show's Herbalism 101 topic.
Sue, today I'd like to go over the definition for an infusion. That's one of those words that comes up often and is tossed around. Tell me about what an infusion really is.
Infusion in herbal world is a very flexible term, but the term that I feel most comfortable defining it as is a liquid that has properties from plant parts extracted into it. And most often when we talk about infusions, we're talking about water. That's the liquid we're talking about, either hot water or cold water. That technically, when you're saying I'm making an infusion, you're taking hot water and pouring it over the plant, not boiling it on the stove. That would be a decoction. But there's lots of other liquids that people use in herb world to make an infusion, like glycerin or any kind of alcohol. A tincture is sometimes called an alcohol infusion or an extraction. Honey, vinegars, agave syrup, which is one of the things that people are using. Sometimes coconut oil. People infuse things into coconut oil, or they can use warm up a plant butter, like a coconut butter or a cocoa butter, and infuse it that way. Wine, juice, there's all kinds of different liquids. As long as it can be in liquid stage at one point and it can be extracting the plant properties, then you've got yourself an infusion.
Sure. And when we're often talking to most herbalists, when you're throwing that word around, if you need to, it would be wise to define. Are we talking about a water-based infusion when you're talking to your herbalist or herbal friends? Most of us assume it's water, but you're right. Any liquid can really be the basis for an infusion.
Yes, and in herb world, as always, flexibility is the key.
And now there's tea. That's another one I was going to say, because people talk about herbal infusions versus herbal teas. There really is no difference, correct?
That is right, yes. Like I said before, the only difference that I think I've heard people fuss about is decoction. Chinese herbs are often decocted on the stove, and that's very different than regular infusion, which is the pouring over. But I have heard the term used for just about anything liquid with something plant in it or plant strained through it.
The statements made about herbs and products on this podcast have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided on this podcast or any affiliated websites is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. You should not use the information on this podcast and its affiliated websites for a diagnosis or treatment of any health problem. Always consult with a healthcare professional before starting any new vitamins, supplements, diet, or exercise program before taking any medication, or if you have or suspect you might have a health problem. Any testimonials, questions, or case studies are based on individual results